Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today. Um, what I would like to do today is explain to you how we're going to do the session and then turn it over to our presenter today, Mr. Daniel Morris from Express Publishing. Let me just share my screen with you. I hope this is all clear for you. As I said, basically we're going to ask Daniel to walk us through the New Enterprise series, which is a 4-skill series from our partner Express Publishing. And at the end, we'll have a few minutes to go through some questions. On that note, please, rather than ask your questions in the chat, please ask them in the questions by clicking on the question in the circle. And that way, those questions are archived. And if we can't answer them in this session, we will be able to answer them after the session so that we can answer them in as much detail as they need. At the end of the session, I would like you to wait a minute or so until I close the session, which will then activate To Be Live to ask you to enter, because this is your first time using the platform, this will give you a chance to enter a password, and that will allow you to, rather than sign up again, that will allow you immediate access to Be Live for any other sessions we have in the future, or for any workshops that we do, because we would like in the new year to run some workshops for new users for the series. So, having said that, let me introduce you to Daniel, who will take us through the New Enterprise series. Daniel, please.
Thank you, Alistair. Thank you for having me here today. It's a great honor, actually, to be part of these webinars for Kinseido. My name is Daniel Morris, as per the introduction. I'm an ELT consultant for Express Publishing, and I have been working with Express Publishing since 2018. During that time, I have been delivering a number of academic and commercial presentations, as well as teacher training sessions worldwide, both face-to-face and online due to the pandemic as well. And I'm very happy today to be presenting to you our new series, which is New Enterprise. I'm just going to actually add in my slide quickly. So hopefully you can see that on your screen. I'm just going to make that full screen as well. So as I said, we're going to be talking about, I'm going to present to you our New Enterprise series. It's a almost brand new series that we have developed with this kind of idea of the next generation of learners in mind. A little bit of background information about this series. We used to have, or we still do have, the original series, which is Enterprise, which was launched in 1997. And this was one of our most popular and most famous publications. Due to wide interest and popularity of the series, our customers asked us for something a bit more modern, as in 1997, technology, education, learning, our learners have evolved immensely since then. They wanted something a bit more modern, and this is something that we really took in mind when developing this series for the next generation of learners, for digital natives, for learners to help them to acquire not just language, but a whole range of different life skills that's going to help them in the future. Okay, and this is what we came up with with New Enterprise. So in this presentation today, what I'd like to do is to take you through the material, walk you through some sample units, talk about a bit about the methodology and some of the new things that we've incorporated into this course, as well as taking a look at the components, both printed and digital, and how they could be of use to you inside your classroom. So then, starting off with the new features of the series, you can see here the covers of from levels A1 to B1 plus. We also have a B2 and B2 plus / C1 level available. So there are 6 levels in total. When it comes to 21st century learning, then we decided to incorporate a wide range of different elements, as I said, to help learners not just acquire and practice language, but to explore and discover language in different ways, challenge them to do their own kind of research, expand the walls of our classroom, essentially, and help learners to get a more holistic view of language. So this is why we included things like culture and values sections into the course, so students can learn about different worldwide cultures that speak English at the same time. We include things like ICT and CLIL sections, so students can do some of their own research, so they can connect what they're learning to the classroom, to different subjects from across the curriculum, for example, at the same time acquire a lot of very useful skills in presentation work, project work, for example. We included things, of course, like collaboration, having students working together in groups and pairs, for example, another important skill to master, especially in the 21st century environment. In any kind of workplace or academic setting, collaboration is something that's very highly regarded. So this is something else that we also incorporated into the course. When it comes to things like study tips, New Enterprise is actually used in a wide number of schools or universities or institutions that also offer or also have exam practice. And in the course, we decided to include these kinds of study tips to help learners to acquire and develop different tips and help them experience exam style tasks in different settings, for example, and get some kind of experience of that. We also included things like competencies, so allowing students to reflect on their progress, look at what they've done throughout the book, and have some kind of or some sense of achievement in what they've been doing in terms of the language, in terms of the skills, and also for the teacher as well, to give them some kind of useful feedback with the students. And of course, helping students to become effective and confident public speakers through a number of different presentation lessons throughout the books as well. So this is what we tried to do with the series. These are some of the new elements that we included into this series. In terms of the key features in general, these features apply to all levels of New Enterprise. We can find 12 theme-based units in each level. Each level separates these 12 units into 3 units each, which becomes a module. So we have 4 modules in each book. In each module, we have 3 units. And throughout each unit, the learners essentially are introduced to a different topic from across the syllabus. And through these topics, they're going to be exploring things like grammar, vocabulary, and skills as well. We have, of course, contextualized grammar presentation. This is something that I'm going to show you in more detail as we go through the presentation. Integrated 21st century skills. I'm also going to be talking to you about that in a few moments' time as well. Something very important when it comes to the 21st century learner, how they can also master the 21st century skills that can help them to be successful in higher education or whatever kind of professional field that they want to go into in the future. We also have development of public speaking skills, which I mentioned on the previous slide, so I'm going to show you some examples of that as well. Integrated writing tasks, helping learners to attempt to write a vast variety of different writing texts, okay, from different genres, different writing styles, how to approach different writing texts, how to apply themselves when it comes to writing. We can find this throughout the entire book as well. We also have CLIL sections at the back of the book. This is where you can find the cross-curricular links to other subjects. We have cultural sections, as I mentioned before, helping learners to expand their horizons, learn a bit more about the world that we live in, and also connect these cultural elements to their own culture here in Japan as well. And of course, as I mentioned, plenty of chances for students to reflect on their progress, to practice and consolidate language based on the common European framework of reference as well. So these are the key features. These are some of the main themes that I'm going to be referring to today as we look at the material and how it could be useful in the classroom. So what we essentially try to do with this series is to create a new series that combines both the traditional elements of a language coursebook with the more modern approaches involved to be more relevant with our learners, to fit the 21st century classroom and the 21st century world, essentially. So what you can find throughout the book, we have traditional looking lessons. I mean, this has all of the hallmarks of a traditional language lesson. Yes, we have vocabulary. Yes, we have a reading text. Students are going to be working with the language. They're going to also be using a number of different skills in here as well. What we've also done in this series is try to create multiple learning pathways in each lesson. It's what the students are doing with the language, which is the most important thing. So things like the animal kingdom, for example, introducing the vocabulary, the students are going to be using things like picture word association to learn new words. At the same time, they're also going to be using the words to contrast and compare with other vocabulary that they've been studying. They're also going to be labeling different pictures as well and finding definitions of the words. So they're going to be learning this vocabulary in a number of different ways there to help them to understand it and make meaning of it. As teachers, I think we know that many of our students enjoy learning or perhaps are suited to learning in different ways, audio, visual, kinesthetic learners. So the more ways that our learners can actually learn things is going to be highly beneficial for them in the classroom. And this is something that we've really tried to take into account in this series. And not only this, we've also, as I said, tried to factor in a lot of the more modern approaches, things like critical thinking and personalizing tasks. One thing is to learn the vocabulary. Another thing is to ask the students to express their own opinions, their own thoughts about the vocabulary. Which is your favorite animal and why? Can you describe it to the class? Can you tell us a bit about it? This is connecting what students are learning in the classroom with their own form of expression, with their own ideas, which again is very important when it comes to learning something. It's making meaning out of something and making things motivational for the learners themselves. We also have things like ICT projects as well. So this idea of keeping English real in the classroom, allowing students to find things out for themselves, taking what we learn outside of the classroom and applying it inside the classroom, what we learn inside the classroom and then taking it outside. So things like researching, preparing projects, allows students again to expand their knowledge, their skills that they've acquired inside the classroom. And of course, every single unit of New Enterprise also has a number of documentary style videos that introduce the language, that introduce the topics for extra exposure for the students. And again, it's taking the language off the page of the book and allowing students to experience learning a language in as many different ways as possible. And this is something that we've really tried to capture in New Enterprise in every single aspect, even when it comes down to grammar, for example. Now, any of you watching today, perhaps you can agree with me. I don't think that grammar is perhaps top of the list of our students' most favorite things to do inside the classroom. However, we need to cover it, of course. And this is again something that we've tried to connect with our students, the way that we present grammar, keeping English real, presenting real life passages, texts, contextualized grammar first, so that students engage with language first, and this language then asks them to have a closer look at the text or the passage or whatever that may be, and then start to analyze the structures. So we're not going straight into the grammar tables, these example sentences on the board, which students can often find quite a turn-off in the classroom. Although they are important, I must stress, it's just a different way for us to engage the students. Language first, and then we're looking into the structure, how everything fits together. And this is something that we use repeatedly in the grammar lessons of New Enterprise. And in addition to that, of course, giving students plenty of opportunities to vocalize and use the grammar structures. One thing is to study the grammar tables. Another thing is to be able to use that information for communication. So in each grammar lesson, there are plenty of opportunities for communication, interaction between students through short conversations, through some kind of guessing game between them where they have to ask questions to find out information from each other. Even things like preparing a questionnaire, a survey of your classmates' abilities. What can they do? What can't they do in the classroom, for example, and using this information to create some kind of a project or a poster or something like that. So this is what we can find throughout New Enterprise in terms of the grammar. Again, keeping English real, taking the language off the page and getting students to really interact with the language in meaningful contexts that they're going to remember, and it's going to help them to internalize these structures. We also have, of course, throughout New Enterprise, plenty of opportunities for learners to develop and refine their skills, all 4 skills, so reading, listening, speaking, and writing, in highly integrated ways. When I say integrated, I mean we're using the rest of the skills to help us to help the learners develop effective listening skills, for example. Yes, we're doing a listening text. At the same time, we are going to be talking about the topic of the listening. So students have the opportunity there to practice some speaking, to get more accustomed with the listening topic itself, and also engage in some exam-style tasks at the same time. This is a very typical kind of exam-style task that you can find in a number of international exams. So a lot of different avenues there that learners can engage in when it comes to things like listening, for example. Things like speaking at the same time. We offer what we call situational speaking. Our learners will be speaking with a purpose. They have a communication goal in the classroom. How are they going to achieve these communication goals? We're going to provide them with models. We're going to provide them with audio clips. We're going to provide them with functional and useful language that our learners can see in context. They can listen to it, they can read it, they can practice it in a role play, and then they can actually use this dialogue to create their own similar speaking dialogue where they can perform this kind of spoken task, helping them to acquire and develop real life speaking skills. Each speaking lesson of New Enterprise will focus around a very specific communication goal. Things like greeting someone, introducing your friends, asking personal questions if you meet somebody for the first time at a party, or you travel abroad, for example, and you meet somebody there. How are you going to interact with them? This is what we want to focus on in New Enterprise, and this is how, through very carefully structured material, we can help the learners to become confident and effective speakers through this kind of methodology of breaking down the speaking skill, making sure that the learners are supported, they have the language, they have access to audio material, they can listen to things like pronunciation and tone and register, for example. All these kinds of things that can help the learners to become more comfortable when it comes to speaking in English and communicating with other people. So this is what we can find in terms of the speaking. We also have, of course, integrated writing. So throughout New Enterprise, our learners will be reading a variety of different reading texts, things like blog articles, journals, web pages, travel brochures, for example, and at the same time, making notes or doing some kind of specific task connected to the reading to help them to, again, work on reading skills, read a text and extract the specific information, a very important skill to develop as well. So these are the kinds of things that we'll be looking at with the reading throughout New Enterprise. We also have, of course, this integration between reading and writing. The texts that students will be reading in the classroom will also be templates or models for writing tasks that they will perform later. So having read a About Me blog in the course book, the students will then later on be writing their own About Me blog in the lesson, having already studied and analysed and understood a similar text. Gives them an effective springboard to be able to perform their own writing task. And with that, of course, we include a number of writing tips to help students perfect the art of writing through things like linking ideas, how to link your sentences and paragraphs together, for example, for a smoother text, how to check your work for things like capital letters, when to capitalize words, for example, so that when you hand in the work to the teacher, when you receive the work from your students, they have taken some steps there to check their own work, to refine, to correct, to self-reflect on their writing as well. So very comprehensive writing skills, and again, very important for academic studies and for future employment as well. And this is why through the number of skills that I've shown you today, I use this word integrated. Each skill that is being learned is serving to help learn another skill that we encounter throughout the book. We also have, of course, cultural lessons. I mentioned this a bit earlier. I think in the 21st century, with the global nature of the English language, it's virtually impossible to separate language and culture. When you learn a new language, you are exploring a completely different culture at time. At times, there are a number of different cultural elements to take into account, and New Enterprise gives the students this opportunity to discover a number of cultural elements. You can see in this lesson we're looking at flags of the world. What does each flag mean? Does it have a special significance? What is the history behind this flag? What do the colors mean, or the symbols, for example? And in these lessons, of course, as we saw in the reading, they are accompanied by documentary-style videos that also help to explain the reading texts, introduce the language, and expose the students to realistic English content that they can use, they can watch in the classroom or at home on our digital platform as well. So a lot of opportunities there for students to not only study a language, but involve themselves in a more international culture and have the opportunity to connect to this culture with their own culture as well. Looking at the flag of Ireland, for example. How is this significant? What are the colors used? Is there any similarities there with the Japanese flag, for example? These are the kinds of things that our learners will be learning about and connecting with their own culture as they go through New Enterprise. Now, at the end of each module, we also have the opportunity for students to do a bit of self-reflection, a bit of practice and consolidation of the language that's been studied so far. So we have progress checks where students can practice everything that's been covered. A good idea for the teacher, if you want to have this section before doing an end of unit test, for example, this is a great opportunity there to get some useful feedback from the students on how they've progressed. It's also very useful for the students to have their own voice in the classroom and feel like they are in control of their learning through the competencies section, allowing students to give feedback about what they've learned. How well do I know these different topics that we've covered? Quite well, okay, not so good, or, am I perfect with this? This is a great opportunity here for the teacher to open these channels of communication with the learners through these progress sections, allowing for learners for self-reflection, to feel good about what they've achieved in the classroom, and perhaps even look at how to set some learning goals. How do I improve on my weaknesses? What do I need to do in order to move forward? And this is why we've included these sections in New Enterprise. Learning is a process. Learning is a two-way process. There's a teacher, but there's also a student. And using these kinds of sections can really help us to combine these two elements together and open these channels of communication, allow for successful self-evaluation and reflection, and help to set perhaps some effective learning goals in the classroom. What do we have in New Enterprise Extra? We have, of course, the CLIL sections. When I say CLIL, of course, I'm referring to Content and Language Integrated Learning. This is where students are learning a different subject. In this lesson, we're looking at citizenship. It could be art, it could be geography, it could be history, through English. So what students have been learning in the module is also connected to another subject from across the curriculum. Again, we also have videos here to help us to introduce these different subject areas. And what students really get to see here is how English can really serve as a vehicle to explore different subject matter. English isn't just restricted to the English classroom. It's something that can be used on a global scale. It helps us to understand and learn new things at the same time. So in these lessons, students will be expanding things like their general knowledge, their cultural appreciation again, and also their cross-curricular knowledge, connecting their English language with various subjects from across their curriculum. There are plenty of opportunities in these lessons, of course, for things like ICT research and projects and collaboration as well, which we're going to talk about in a little while. So having looked at the methodology of the books as a general kind of observation, I'd like to take you now through the structure of the book itself. I showed you most of the pages of a unit, but I'd like to be a bit more specific here and help us to create like a roadmap, essentially, of a module to help you understand that the structure of the course. What you can see in front of you is a nice little index, really, of how as a unit of New Enterprise is structured. And this is for every single level of New Enterprise. You can open up your A1 book or B1 and you have everything there in front of you. So typically each module starts with a modular page. So the modular page will introduce the topic, the general topic of the unit. This will include a reading text and a video as well that help the teacher to present this topic. At the same time, the students will be receiving a lot of input during the first stages of the unit through the reading text, through the video, a lot of language, vocabulary that's being focused on, and the chance to kind of reflect and focus on this language as well. And throughout this kind of lesson, we are essentially building interest, establishing this kind of context for the lesson itself. And then we actually move into the next 3 lessons, which is a vocabulary lesson. So students will then work on a lot of the vocabulary from the video, from the texts, and they'll have the chance there to activate and use this vocabulary for a speaking or a writing or an ICT project, for example. We'll then move into a grammar in use lesson. So students will then begin to explore some of the key structures for the unit, and through various materials, they're going to be practicing using this grammar effectively. We also then move into the skills in action section as well. So in lesson C, the students will be having this integrated practice of the 4 skills together. Again, working on things they've been studying before and connecting it to some new knowledge that they're picking up in the lesson. And at the very end of the module, we're going to tie a lot of what we've learned to a cultural element. We're going to explore something from across the world and then connect this to what the students experience in their own reality in Japan or in whichever country they are studying as well. So this is the main idea of the units. And of course, finally, we have the review and competencies section at the end of the book. Just to give you a clearer idea, here is the contents pages from A1 of New Enterprise. You can see the 12 units are displayed there, and they're split up into 4 sections, the 4 modules. After 3 units, we have a slight break, and we focus on things like values and public speaking. So we have the opportunity there for students to develop different values or fostering values, things like national pride, for example. Okay, what makes you feel proud about your country? What makes other people feel proud about their country, for example? Things like public speaking and presentation skills, as I mentioned before. So a lot of opportunities there. And this is the same structure that you're going to find in every single level of New Enterprise, when you access the leaflets, which will be made available to you today, you will be able to have a look at some of the contents pages of each book, each level, and have a closer look at the syllabus of the book as well. So just taking you through an entire module. As a visual learner myself, I enjoy to actually see everything laid out as well. And as this is a demo presentation, why not? So let's have a look at the module as a whole. Here is the modular page, as I mentioned before, typically a text and a video, some reading comprehension. As we move into the next part of the lesson, we're looking more at the vocabulary, the language, and we also have the opportunity there for some ICT research as well. In the general topic of this module, of this Unit 9, for example, is this idea of traveling around the world, how perhaps the place where we live can change over the years, what it's like to travel to a different country and explore the culture of that country, and maybe how you need to behave when you travel to another country. All of this is kind of explored in this unit through the vocabulary, through the grammar, through the skills. The students are getting this kind of input from the lesson. So this is what we essentially achieve in lesson 1, some reading vocabulary and some chances to reflect on the text itself, and for the students to think about maybe a couple of places that they know around the world and maybe try and connect it to what they've studied in the lesson. In the next lesson, of course, we come to the grammar section, a double page spread, as we saw before. In this lesson, we're looking at a variety of different grammar items. We can see our grammar tables are explored through there. But before we actually get to the grammar tables, we are presenting the grammar again in a realistic way, in a way that's going to get the students' attention. Okay, if we go into the classroom and we are presenting students with huge grammar tables, it can be quite intimidating. It can be something of a turn-off for the students. In New Enterprise, as I mentioned, we're trying to grab the students' attention. We're trying to show them that it's language first. We're using language and then we're exploring it. So something like a quiz, for example, at the beginning of this lesson, students are completing the quiz, and from the quiz, we are then going to extract the language structures that we're going to focus on through carefully graded activities, which then follows with even an ICT project to collect information about an ancient civilization, and then prepare a quiz very similar to the one they did at the beginning. So plenty of opportunities there for communication, using the grammar throughout the lesson, even finishing with a project using the grammar at the end. Things that students typically find fun and engaging. We're even incorporating these into the grammar sections as well for more motivation, more engagement with the students, and again, keeping English real, okay? Getting students to use the language that they're coming into contact with. Our skills section follows, and as you can see, again, very similar. We're looking at some vocabulary first of all, then we're moving into some listening and speaking. Through our speaking, this time we're looking at how to give directions. If you meet somebody in the street, for example, how are you going to give them directions if they want to go and visit the museum, for example, in Tokyo? How are you going to advise them on this? This is something that we address through the skills section. And again, we're looking at things like models. We've got the audio. We've got useful language for how to ask for directions and also for how to give directions as well. These are things that are going to be explored throughout this lesson. We also have, of course, a reading text, this time a different text, a travel article. And students will then, after reading the article, they'll be writing a very similar article, maybe for something from their own country in Japan, for example. So again, integrated skills, each skill kind of helping to teach the next one, helping students to develop realistic skills that they can use in a variety of different contexts. As we come to the end of the module, then we are looking at the cultural elements. Here we've got a great lesson on street names in the UK. I'm not sure how things are in Japan, but in the UK, we have there's a great tradition with street names. A lot of street names have a lot of history. Looking at a street name can also give you a lot of kind of story about the origins of that area, the people that lived there, for example. And this is something that students can find interesting to learn about. And with this kind of text, of course, we have the videos as well that help us to present this kind of information, extra exposure, and students will do their own research about different street names. Is this something that happens a lot in Japan? If not, why not? If yes, what are some of the differences? It allows them again to connect the dots when it comes to these kind of cultural elements. And of course, finishing with the progress and the chance for self-reflection as well. What else do we have? Of course, we have the values section. So talking about travel, talking about different places around the world, how to be a good traveler, how to respect each different community that you enter. There was a fantastic story on the news a couple of weeks ago about the Japanese fans in Qatar that completely cleaned up their section of the stadium after the football game. And, they were getting a lot of praise around the world for how respectful they were in doing that and ensuring that the next people that come to the stadium have a clean environment. And this is something fantastic to learn about, how to be a successful or a respectful traveler. These are the kinds of things that the students get to interact with, and they get to offer their own examples as well. So maybe in Japan, a lot of the students reading these kinds of texts can maybe think about some of these ideas as well. So a fantastic kind of end to each module, having these kinds of values, getting students to think about what it's like to live in different cultures, how different cultures can vary, and celebrate our differences, essentially. We also have, of course, the public speaking sections, which I mentioned a few times already. As you can see here, it's a complete lesson from start to finish, how to plan your public speaking presentation. If you have a presentation in the class, what are you going to be presenting, how to brainstorm, how to plan it, how to structure it, and even we have an example presentation in the lesson that students can study to see some examples of good presentations, so they can take these ideas away and prepare their own presentation. So a very structured and scaffolded approach to teaching presentation skills throughout the book. So these sections can be found throughout New Enterprise as well. Now, I'm just going to make a quick reference here to the 21st century skills. For a new course book, for a modern course book, it was impossible for us to not include things like communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity into our course, things that help learners engage with the material and also equip them with lifelong learning skills. So things like critical thinking, getting students to reflect on what they're learning. Say or write 2 things that you learned from the text, for example, getting them to think about what they're learning, connect the dots, and maybe even expand on different topics. Are you a good citizen of the world? What examples do you have apart from the text that you've written? So getting students to think more deeply about texts. Imagine that your team takes part in a school sports competition. You need to create your own flag. So having learned about different flags, create your own flag. Give it some kind of meaning, for example. These are different things that engage students more deeply in learning, get them to think about the topics that they're using at the same time as practicing the language. Things like research sections, getting students to find stuff out on their own. Okay, having not just the teacher as the center of knowledge in the classroom, we can access information at the click of a button now in the 21st century. So teaching students how to research things properly. What do you need to do in order to prepare a project? These kinds of tasks allow students to get this kind of very useful experience that they can use in their academic studies in the future or in their professional environment as well. And of course, throughout all of this, plenty of opportunities for collaboration and creativity, both important skills. Being able to be creative with language can be motivating, at the same time allowing students to express themselves and work together with other people. And again, something in academic studies and in professional settings, the being able to work effectively as part of a team is something that is not underestimated anymore. It's quite high on employers' lists. So getting students to actually work together and use language to produce things in the classroom. These are the kinds of things that we also try to focus on throughout New Enterprise. Through these brief examples that I've shown you, you can find that the entire course is filled with plenty of these opportunities that help enrich and engage the students with the content. So just a quick reference here to New Enterprise B1 Plus. This is one of the newer levels that was added as a bridge between B1 and B2 level. Okay, this is one of the newest that we've added. But as you can see, exactly the same structure, exactly the same methodology, the 12 units, the modules displayed there. So just to give you an idea again, I include this slide just to give you an idea of as you progress through the levels, you're going to get the same structure. And of course, we're going to have more advanced vocabulary and language, of course, but we're going to get the same structure, the same methodology, taking your students by the hand from beginner and helping them to become more confident and competent language users. Now, a quick mention about the digital support that you can find with this course. Express Publishing has its own learning platform, which is Express Digibooks. Express Digibooks has seen a lot of success. We have worldwide, we have about 500,000 users on the platform already. And what the platform offers you, it offers you the chance to access your printed material in both online and online format. Through the platform, you can access the material, you can complete exercises on your own, and you can receive instant feedback. This is something that the learners can do. What it also allows you to do is use the platform as a learning management system, or an LMS for short. What the LMS does, it allows schools or universities or institutions to use the platform to organize their timetable, create their calendar, create classes, register students and teachers to their online school, even do things like assign homework, track progress, and print off report cards as well. So the platform really has a twofold focus for individual use and also for school use as well. If you want to organize your school digitally, if you are teaching online, or if you want to combine both face-to-face with digital learning, Express Digibooks is the perfect solution for you. We also have the interactive whiteboard software, which is an excellent presentation tool for the teacher. Fully interactive software that has all of the audio and video material from the course, allows you to bring this course to life inside your class with your students as well. So I mentioned a couple of the digital components there. Let's have a look at the full components of the course, just to be clear. For the student, we have the student's book, which I have demonstrated to you today. This is accompanied by the digibook. Inside the book, there is an activation code, which is your digibook, which you can activate on our platform. We also have a workbook and grammar book, also with digibooks, that you can activate. So you have fully accessible material, printed and digital format, a student's book, a workbook, and a grammar book. The workbook and the grammar book supplement the course. If you want to include extra teaching hours, depending on your school syllabus, if you want to add some extra practice and consolidation, you can also use the workbook and grammar book. You can assign homework through the platform to your students. You can also have your students working independently from these books as well, as you choose in your classes. And for the teacher, of course, very supported, makes your life a lot easier to have a fully functional teacher's book, audio, scripts, lesson plans, objectives and answer keys, all included there. You also have access to tests and class CDs as well, which I'm going to talk about in a little while. And of course, you have, as I mentioned, the interactive whiteboard software and the Express Digibook platform at your disposal as well for full digital support. You can bring your lessons to life. You can engage your students in both synchronous and asynchronous learning, and you can really take full advantage of these materials. And this is what I want to do in the next part of the presentation. Just quickly take you through the Express Digibooks platform, some screenshots appearing on your screen now from the platform. As you can see, you get full access to the book, to the printed book. Here you can see you can interact with the book. There are different types of exercises. You can type your answers. You can move different words down as well. It allows you to interact in different ways. Students can check their answers and receive instant feedback straight away. They can also try again as many times as they want, and they're going to get instant feedback, which is sent straight to the teacher as well. So the teacher can keep full record of what the students have been doing in the class or outside the class whenever the students are doing these kinds of tasks. For the teachers, in the top corner of the screen, you can also see like a light bulb icon there. You also have the answer keys available to you in the platform, so you can quickly clarify with your students if you need to check anything. You have the answers available to you there as well. So plenty of things for the students to do, plenty of things for the teachers to do as well, which I'm going to get to in a moment. You have the listening task as well. The listening, of course, accompanied by the audios. You have all of the video content as well. So all of the videos that you find throughout the course when it comes to the cultural elements, the reading texts, the CLIL lessons, students can watch these videos through the platform in their own space, in their own time. And there are always some connecting tasks to the video, some questions to answer, some tasks to complete as well. So for any extra practice, you can really take full advantage of the platform here. What you're seeing now is my library in the Express DigiBooks platform. As I mentioned before, each book has its own activation code that you can use to register on the platform. So here you can see in my library, I have added various new enterprise books to my library. The workbook and the grammar book, for example. I've even got the book from A2 level as well. You can add as many books as you want to your library, and as the teacher, when you have the books in your library and your students have them as well, you'll be able to assign all of the homework exercises as you wish to your students to supplement your lessons. And not only that, I mentioned this a few moments ago, but just to really show you, as the teacher, you will be able to keep tabs on your students' progress through the progress tabs. You can look at the visible attempts, how many times the students have attempted exercises, what was their overall kind of percentage. You can even filter down different skill types, look at homework that was specifically vocabulary, for example, or look at homework that was specifically listening tasks. And this will give you a very detailed view of how your students are progressing in the various different skill types. You're also able to export a lot of this data into Excel files and PDFs, so you can also use that as part of your reporting for parents meetings, for example, or for end of year reports. You're able to extract a lot of this data as well. So these are just some of the other features that the learning management system of Express DigiBooks can give you. When it comes to assigning homework, very easy to assign homework. You simply select your book and you select your exercises. You can select multiple exercises at once and simply send them to your class. Your class will receive them instantly, and as soon as they complete these tasks, you will be able to go in and check the progress and see what they've done as well. So very, very easy for the teacher to work their way around the platform. What you also have, and we're very happy to announce this year, this is brand new, a brand new feature for us, is for the first time ever through our platform, you're also able to assign essays and writing tasks to your learners. So you can create your own essay questions. You can use an essay question from the book if you want to, or you can use your own, and your students can submit their answers through the platform, and you will also be able to grade these answers as you go through and provide students with feedback on their writing as well. So the platform really allows for a number of different skills to be incorporated, and for you, the teacher, to assign and check progress and assignments as you wish, really. And here we have, in this last slide, I wanted to show you just the inner workings of the LMS system. As a school, as a university or institution, you will have full access to the platform. You can see here that from my main menu, as a school, I can create my own users. I can organize my school timetable, my calendar. I can even create new classes. I can even keep tabs on things like grade books and even things like announcements. I can announce things to my students, even parents, any news, any updates from the school. I can post on the blog as well. So a lot of different features there that the LMS can give you to organize your school. As I said, if you are looking into things like hybrid learning, if you are still teaching fully online, or if you want to kind of balance out a lot of the things that perhaps we learn during the online teaching stage, if things like digital homework is something you want to continue with in your school, this could be a great solution for you to take a look at as well. And moving on from the platform, that was the last slide there from the platform, just to show you the LMS. We're now looking at the interactive whiteboard software for New Enterprise B1. As you can see here, you have the full content of the book, you have the contents pages, you have the workbook, the grammar book included, all of the documentaries are there as well. You can see all the videos, documentaries, so you can play the videos in your classroom. For example, they're all included inside the interactive whiteboard software. And as I mentioned before, it's a great presentation tool for students. If we're looking at things like vocabulary, for example, or pre-reading tasks, introducing ideas and concepts, we can use the interactive whiteboard software for new vocabulary. We've got images, we've got audio clips, we've even got interactive tasks where you can move the answers around and students can find out for themselves. So a great tool there if you're presenting or if you're correcting work on the board, for example. You can use the interactive whiteboard software for that. We also have the reading sections. Okay, so full audio included. We also have what we like to call the karaoke reading. So as students are reading through the text, as we're playing the audio, we also have the text flashing up in blue there to help learners with their reading skills to follow a text. We may have learners, for example, in our class that still need to develop their reading skills. So having this kind of feature there can really help in the classroom, this kind of very useful presentation tool, especially when it comes to the visuals, vocabulary, working with texts, maybe correcting things on the board with the learners, or just simply engaging them in tasks. Even things like games for the grammar. In every grammar lesson, besides the quizzes that we looked at, besides the projects, besides the interaction, we also have a number of games available. So team games to practice the vocabulary or grammar structures in this case that we can use on the board. So a wide range of different material there as the teacher for you to further engage your learners and bring this course to life, essentially. So that was the interactive whiteboard software. Just a last couple of slides before we finish today. Talking about teachers' resources, very happy to inform you that we actually have our own Teachers Corner download resource site. You can see that the website is actually included there on the screen. And what can you find from here? Well, you can find a lot of free material. These include tests and class audios for New Enterprise. You can go in and you can download tests for every level. Each test pack has tests for every single unit. For modules, there's an exit test, there's an entry test as well. It also has audios included for the listening as well, so you can download the audio files for the listening tests. And the great thing about these tests is that they are all in Word format as well. So you are able as the teacher to go in and customize these tests as you see fit, or simply print them off and give them to your students. You have full freedom. You don't have to ever worry about creating your own test material. You're fully supported and you can download them for free as well. And of course, we have the class CDs. These are MP3 files that you can download from the Teachers Resource website. This is the full audio for the entire course, even including the workbook and the grammar book as well. So you have full access to all of the audio material. You don't have to worry about using CDs and things like that. You can download all of the content to your computer at the touch of a button. So if you want to make a note of this resource site, please do, and you can have full access to the teachers' resources as well. So just to kind of sum up everything, we've gone through the methodology and the components. This is the full course in all its glory from New Enterprise A1 up to B2/C1 level. All of these levels are now available in both printed and digital form for you to use in your classroom. And at Express Publishing, we really do hope that you enjoy using our materials and that today's session has been useful for you. So I'm just going to leave this slide up. It's been a great honor to participate in these webinars for Kinseido today, and it's always an honor to speak to teachers and demonstrate our materials. If you want to find out more about Express Publishing or our materials, you can visit our website. I've also included Kinseido's website here, where you can find specific information on our New Enterprise series. And of course, you can also contact our local representatives in Japan for further academic advice when using these kinds of titles as well. So it's been a great pleasure. And Alistair, I think I'm coming to an end here.
Okay, Daniel, thank you so much. That was an excellent presentation, very comprehensive. And I think you've made it a lot easier for our teachers to make a very informed decision regarding using New Enterprise from now. Let me just show a slide regarding your link. If you go to our Kinseido-eot.com website, you will see this page for each level. And to make it easier for everyone to have a deep look into the series, we've put individual sections for every section that Daniel has gone through. We also have the sample audio and a sample video for every level. And at the top, in the green button in the top right, we have a try a complete sample unit, which is for teachers to download and test it in class to make sure they understand the benefits of using New Enterprise in class from now. And in closing, I would just like to remind you that if you want to have an actual physical inspection copy also, you can go to our website and click on the yellow button called eSpace, where you can either log in or sign up. Sign up takes 2 minutes, and then that will give you access to any title you want, but obviously Express Publishing's New Enterprise series to get physical copies for you to really test out with your students. Thank you very much for listening to our webinar. Thank you again to Daniel for joining us. And one thing I'd like to remind you is before you close your browser, please let me close the session so that To Be Live platform will then ask you to create a password, and then you can easily join us again for future webinars and workshops. Next year, we will be announcing a series of webinars and workshops that we would love to see you in. So thank you very much, and see you again. Bye for now. Thank you, Daniel.